Coming to you from the Big Island of Hawaii, it's the Songs and Stories Podcast. And now, here's your host, Steve Roby.
Aloha, this is Steve Roby from Big Island Music Magazine, West Hawaii today. Backstage at the Kahilu Theater for another great interview. My guests today are award-winning musicians, the trio Waipuna. Aloha, guys.
Aloha.
Hey, why don't we start out with a band introduction going from my left to my right. Tell me who you are. What do you play?
My name is David Kamakahi. I'm the ukulele player of Waipuna.
My name is Matthew Sproat, or just Matt Sproat, and I'm the guitarist.
I'm Kale Hannes, and I'm on the bass.
All right, welcome to the Kahilu Theater. This is your debut in Waimea at the Kahilu Theater, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's start at the beginning. When and how did Waipuna form?
Actually, we kind of formed as a duo first, Kale and myself, back in 2007. I was asked, we'll start back in 2003 when I won the Big Island Falsetto Contest here. And that following year, we recorded an album with the Falsetto Contest winners from Big Island, Maui, and Oahu. And on that recording, there was a song that I won with, Pohai Ke Aloha. And then back in 2007, a friend of mine, she's passed, but that is Kumuhula Noilani Chang. One of her halau that she teaches in Niigata, Japan, was doing their ho'ike in Niigata and wanted to do the entire halau based around that recording that I did called Pohai Ke Aloha. And so she came up to me and Kumu says, can you come up with me? I'm like, yeah. She says, I need a band. The only difference is this is happening in a month. Yeah, and I'm like, so
okay.
I'm like, everybody that I was playing music with at that time, actively playing music, could not make it. So Kale was a friend of mine. We played a couple of times, but we didn't really know each other that well.
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah. And then so I ended up calling him, and he was the first one to say, give me that solid yes, and we're looking for another person to stand a trio. After a while, I was like, let's just keep this as a duo. So we went up to that, to do that ho'ike back in 2007. First time we played together, just the two of us together. We had no name.
We didn't rehearse.
We didn't rehearse.
We just went up.
Yeah.
How'd you put your set list together, your song list together?
Well, you just gave me one song. Pohai Ke Aloha.
Oh, okay. That's it.
I can do one song.
So we're there to basically back up the halau.
Okay.
That they were doing their ho'ike. But then, so when we came back that year in 2007, we kind of went our separate ways, and we still kept in touch. But it was actually until 2008 where one of his bands that he was playing with at that time could not make a certain gig. So he called me up, can you come up and do this gig? Yeah, sure. And then that started everything. That started is, you know what, there's two people in that bar that night besides us.
Yeah. the old Akubone, down next to Ala Moana. My bandmates couldn't make it, and so calling everybody, either they didn't want to play or they couldn't play, and then Matt said, yeah, sure, I'll be there. And so it was just the two of us, and I think that was when we went on break after the first set, we were like, hey, something is clicking, something is, we got something here.
Because we weren't playing for an audience, we were playing for ourselves.
We're just jamming.
We noticed we come from two different backgrounds of music, but the same heart, same style. So
but you could hear the harmonies and everything in there at that point.
We were making it up at that moment, because this is something where it's all freestyle. It's all freestyle. I'm gonna play this song, key of C, back me up, right? And then we did, and we started to find different. You know what? We might have something here. That was in 2008.
Okay.
Right.
That's the official start date, huh?
Official start date.
Okay.
We officially birthed the name in April of 2008.
Okay.
We decided to become an actual band as a duo.
Okay. Then the awards came.
That came in 2010.
11.
Yes.
Okay. Just a few years, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of growing pains that we did in between then. There was a lot of misfires as well. It wasn't always, clicking on all cylinders.
Well, that's natural. That's
There's
natural.
some misfires.
Yeah.
And, some. But we kept at it, and it was just. I think Matt hit it on the point where he was like, that same style. I mean, different music, but that same kind of aggressive and really entertaining style, if you will. And that kind of translates into our music, where a lot of our music is arranged in the point where the ear is always going to be listening to something different. And I always point back to when we recorded our second album, which we were very fortunate to receive some Nahoku Hano Hano awards for. But Matt was kind of pushing the point across where we didn't want to do something that was typical. We didn't want to have do a song in a typical arrangement. We wanted to have the listener there, hear different voices, different kinds of harmonies, and so there's always something to listen to.
And then you became a trio.
Well, it started.
Okay.
What he was talking about, it actually started because we were not a trio, we were a duo.
Right.
So standard, Hawaiian music comes with it as a trio, but because we're less one person, we had to make up for that one person.
Uh-huh.
And so we started to arrange our music very large, the two of us, in order to make up for that third person. And then the third person actually came in.
He was actually a guest artist.
He came
started
in
as a guest artist. Because the first album came out was Manao Pili, and that was in 08. 09. And then I got a call. Kali actually called me up because I've known Kali the longest since college, and he's like, "Oh, do you want to come in and do a guest song on a song I wrote?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." So I go in. First time I met Matt was in the studio that day, and then we just started messing around with the song, and then they're like, "Oh, great, thanks." And then I left. I think it was like a few months later. I get another call, and Kali's like, "Hey, you want to join the band?" I'm like, "Sure, I'm doing nothing." So.
Then you became a trio. Where do all your influences come? I mean, I was listening to your sound check, and I'm hearing a lot of different influences: country, maybe rock, pop, Hawaiian, of course.
Funny because my family is known for Hawaiian music.
Okay.
We go generations back
Sure.
to Hawaiian music. When I was growing up, wherever we were, music was always played. Hawaiian music was always played.
Both sides of your family.
Both sides of my family, yes. But my mom's side and my dad's side. My dad's side was the one side known for Hawaiian music throughout the world. I wanted nothing to do with Hawaiian music.
Why's that? Oh, you're the guy with the heavy metal background.
I loved heavy metal. I loved heavy metal. And, there was one of the...
Metallica, right? Yeah.
That's
Okay.
my language. Def Leppard, Metallica, Guns
There
N'
you go.
Roses. That was
All that
the
80s stuff, huh?
80s.
Yeah.
I graduated in 1990, so that whole 80s...
Pre-grunge.
Pre-grunge, yes.
Yeah.
It was the pre-grunge.
Okay.
But it was during that time. I loved rock and roll. Glam rock, the hairstyles, the hairspray,
the hair bands. Huh?
I loved that era.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh no, I loved it.
No shame.
My first guitar I ever had was a mint green Ibanez.
Oh. Do some damage with that, huh?
Guitar.
Okay.
My first guitar. I love that thing so much. But that was one of the things. So my influence comes a lot from what I picked up from my family. Of course, my mom and dad loved Hawaiian music. Therefore, there was a lot of old traditional stuff that we learned from them. But I'm always on that edge also. I rode that fence, and it shows within our music and some of those things where I don't want to be the typical, and that's what Kali was saying. But I didn't want to be the typical person as far as we're going to do this, do this, do this, do this, like how you normally listen to it in the club or in the bar. Let's try something different. Let's try something more different. Let's try something that's going to be just like how heavy metal came in. It was different. It was a little different.
It woke everybody up.
It woke everybody up.
Okay.
Exactly. So a lot of times we'll do little tricks here and there in our shows.
Okay.
That will show another side of Hawaiian music that you're not going to find from any other band.
What should fans watch for? The Metallica shows up. Or?
I think it has to do more with the strums.
Yes.
Okay.
And the arrangements
Okay.
of vocals. David is, of course, a spectacular ukulele player in his own right, and even the playoff between the ukulele and the bass, kind of playing off of each other as well.
Okay.
keeps your ear moving.
Yeah.
like I said.
So is it fair to say that you're honoring your past influences, the Hawaiian music, of course, maybe some rock and roll influences there, but you're looking toward the future and cultivating that sound?
Well, that's Matt. Matt has his background. David, of course, being Uncle Dennis Kamakahi, the
Sure,
Reverend Dennis
yeah.
Kamakahi's son, has access to all of that, as well as what were some of your music influences, Dave, besides Dad? And Dad and the Sons and so much, right?
Yeah, Dad was with the Sons of Hawaii. So I grew up with Dad's music all my life. And then Dad was mainly like Matt. He was heavy metal, country, a lot of country I grew up listening to with my dad. But it was my mom who introduced me to the other types of music like rock and roll. But my dad would always be the one to like throw the curveball for me. He's like, "Oh yeah, listen to this," and it'd be like this beautiful Puerto Rican song, and then he got me listening to opera and
Wow.
all these different.
Nice.
And then
Mixing it up.
and when I started actually playing music professionally, I was touring with my father and all these masters like Ledward Kapana, Cyril Pahinui, Richard and Saul Ho'opi'i, and all of these masters of their craft. Like we're talking like 30 years in the music business, and it's just amazing to be on stage with these guys. So I would outright steal whatever knowledge I could get.
Borrow.
Play, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What I learned too is that even the masters that came before me, they were also had the influences of their own.
Of course, yeah.
Like I'll talk with Uncle Cyril Pahinui. I'm like, where did your style come from? And he's like, a lot of blues, man. So Uncle Cyril would teach me like blues stuff. Uncle Led was country, full on. And so yeah, I would just pick the brains of all these masters I was surrounded with because I wanted to take advantage of that opportunity.
So is it fair to say your sound is a mix of all your influences put together, and that's where the contemporary Hawaiian music part comes in? Is
Right. I mean, we've all spent a lot of time with, our kupuna elders within the music industry. Matt used to play a lot with Blaine Kia, and he always used to be a musician at some of those hula conferences. And so he had to learn things on the spot. He had a very good relationship with a lot of, he has a great relationship with a lot of kumu. So he's very much into that hula realm. Dave with his dad and the Sons of Hawaii. Myself and my prior group and just when we came up, I would say it's a great time. It was a great time for Hawaiian music because our idols were Sunday Manoa, Brothers Casimiro, Ho'okena, and all those guys. And then we wanted to do something with our music because you say, how do we honor the past but move forward? So it wouldn't make sense for us to just copy, do a carbon copy of what they're doing.
Sure.
Right? Because essentially, who are you going to hire? Brothers Casimiro or Waipuna? Do the same song, right?
Yeah.
So we wanted to, and that's why we started saying, okay, as long as we know the melody lines, we go to the composers and ask permission, and we get the mana'o of all the songs. After that, and we pay tribute to that in the first verse of every song. It's going to have the correct melody line, correct words and everything. Actually, the whole song has the correct words, but after that first verse in every song, that's when we start taking liberties and mixing it up and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Well, as a licensed journalist, I'm required to ask a pandemic question. So here comes the pandemic question. So what did the group do during the pandemic to stay connected with your fans and yourselves?
That was hard for us because at the beginning of so when the pandemic hit, we were, I think, one of the last people on the road. It was March 12th. We were performing in Eugene, Oregon, and we got word that day that the governor of Oregon was shutting down the borders to Washington State. That's when Seattle was starting to go off, and so we didn't know whether we could get home. We finally did, and nobody knew how long this thing would last. So we're holding out hope that, okay, a couple months maybe, but one by one we started seeing tours cancel and cancel and cancel.
Right.
And we've invested a lot in performing both in Japan and on the continental.
Sure. Yeah. Were you in the middle of a tour? Or?
Yep.
Okay. Oh boy.
So it was hard on our psyche because how can you, and that's expected income for us,
Yeah.
right? So
Airports were being shut down. Everything.
yep,
Yeah.
we couldn't travel.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things we did a couple of things to try and keep in touch with ourselves and our music and with our friends and family who are not here in Hawaii. So we came out with an album in 2020. We said, okay, we're home. We're finally home. and we don't know when we're leaving, so let's do an album. And we did a 10-song album, and we just kept it to strictly Waipuna. It was more of our traditional roots, I would say. And we also did Facebook Lives, which were great, and a great way to connect with people. But any kind of expected income from those quickly dwindled.
Sure.
Because
Did you record the album together in the same room, or do one of those kind of separate things? Or?
we did it track by track. We did track by track.
Okay.
So I guess a lot of it because of the studio during that this is the time of 2020. You know, everything as far as the pandemic goes is unsure.
Of course, yeah.
And with the studio, we ended up going in more than anything one at a time.
Yeah, we had to change the process.
Yeah. So
So you just layered tracks and
correct.
Okay.
We layered tracks on one on top of each other. We kept together. You know. Okay, this is what I did tonight. Okay, this is what I did. You know. And then
Homework.
Plus, we didn't want to let anybody else know that we were gathering. You know, anywhere.
It was strange times.
Very
Yeah.
strange time.
Yeah.
It was a very, very strange time. You know.
Couldn't have more than 5 people or something.
At any time.
Yeah.
You know, with the studio. Plus 2. You know, so that was one of the things.
Yeah.
We had challenges, but we ended up doing it.
Yeah, and you got a finished album,
We
yeah.
have a finished album.
Yeah. Tell me about the show today at the Kahilu Theater. What can fans expect if they tune into Kahilu TV, say they couldn't make it today, but they want to watch the show? Tell me about what's in the show today.
For those of you who may not be familiar with Waipuna, you're going to hear some. We put together an energetic set all the time, and it actually has a lot of energy, a lot of passion. We tell a lot of stories. We like to engage the audience. We learned that it's better to engage and have kind of a back and forth between the audience rather than just playing at them and presenting everything and kind of shoving it down their throats, if you will. So you're going to hear some songs, of course, paying tribute to Hawaii Island. I think the last time we were here was 2018 or 2017 for the Kamehameha Day celebration up in Waimea.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the last time we were here. But you're also going to hear some new music that we've recorded during pandemic, potentially some music that we're going to put on our next album that we're going to release next year as we celebrate 15 years as a group.
Wow, congratulations,
So you guys have been bugging, or Kahilu Theater has been bugging me for a set list. And I said, we don't know the set list because we don't know the audience yet. Drives them crazy, I'm sure, just like Kahilu TV. But I mean, that's the process, that's a method that we've done, and it's worked for us.
All right.
Play off the audience.
All right. But you'll announce the songs, right?
We'll announce the song.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So a lot of times, we generally sometimes have the first 3 songs we're gonna sing.
Yeah.
After that, we're just gonna go out.
Well, sometimes that's the best, right? I mean, it's a little more freer than...
Yes.
Yeah. It's freer, and then that way we can play to how our audience is reacting. I
Nice.
think we've always done that. We have 6 albums, so we can.
You get a little to pick from,
We
yeah.
have
Right.
to pick from,
Nice.
and sometimes we throw in little things here and there. But we've always said we try to keep our shows entertaining.
All right. Well, looking forward, what's the rest of the year look like for you? Are you working on any new material? You mentioned that you've got an album almost finished in the can coming out. Nope. Oh, no. Steve, you jumping on the...
Well, we have a.
I'm ready to pre-order it, yeah.
I'd say we have 3 or 4 more trips to
Okay.
Japan in the rest of the
Okay.
year. It's nice that Japan has opened up, and so we're
To us.
to us for business visas, and we're going up there. It's great to connect with those friends up there, and everybody says Japan this, Japan that, but really those are those people over there are our friends over there are some of the most respectful and just passionate people about Hawaiian music. I mean, they'll buy all of our albums. Well, most people, on the mainland will download.
Yeah.
And because they want the value of the actual product. And we actually put a lot of work into building that product with liner notes, translations of songs, stories behind the songs. It's all
Amen to that, man.
And graphics.
graphics as well. So we have those trips, and in fact, just in the car over, I mentioned to the guys, guys, start thinking about songs because I'd like to start recording sometime early next year, and then shoot for maybe a fall release of our 7th album to commemorate 15 years.
Nice. Have you got a working title?
We're still here.
TBD. Just like our set list.
Normally titles we don't usually start to think about that until we realize what songs are on the album.
Okay.
That's when we start to
Usually a
understand
theme
the
emerges.
theme. Right?
Well, the guys, thank you so much for your time today. Have a great show tonight at the Kahilu Theater.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Looking forward to it. Aloha.
Thanks for listening to the Songs and Stories podcast. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. We'll see you next week on Songs and Stories. Aloha.